Shalom and welcome to Torah and Coffee. I have my Torah right in front of me. I know you can't see, but I do have it. And I do have my coffee. And I have my shirt on for Torah and Coffee. Thank you, Megan. And tell your grandma I said thank you. So, today we're going to read Exodus chapter 6, 7, 8, and 9. So, have some fun reading this. Grab your Bibles, follow along, listen to it. But be safe out there if you're driving. And let's get right into it. Exodus chapter 6, verse 1. Then Yah said to Moshe, "You shall soon see that I will do what I will do to Pharaoh. He shall let them go because of a greater might. Indeed, because of a greater might, he shall drive them from his land." Yah spoke to Moses and said to him, "I am Yah. I appeared to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov as El Shaddai, but I do not make myself known to them by my name Yah, or Jehovah, or Yahweh." Verse 4. I also established my covenant with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as sojourners. Now, what does it mean, sojourners? You know, there are three different types of people. You have your travelers. They travel through a city. They stay maybe for a day or two, maybe for a week, and then they move on to the next place. A sojourner comes from a country or comes from one place and moves to another place. Now, if you know the story of Lot, Lot was a traveler. He went from one place to another, but then he became a sojourner and resided in the city of Sodom. So if you move from one place to another and you plan on and you live there, you're a sojourner. But then we have a third person, what we call a citizen. He is a citizen. Like if you come from one country and move to another, say you move from Germany to America, and after a lot of time you become a citizen of America. So that's called a citizen. So you have your traveler, your sojourner, and your citizen. So that's what sojourner is. One who resides in the city or in the country, but is not a citizen. Verse 5. I have now heard the moaning of the Israelites because the Egyptians are holding them in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Say therefore to Bnei Israel, Bnei means my son. Now say therefore to Bnei Israel, or my son, I am Yah, or I am God, or I am Jehovah. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians, deliver you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and through extraordinary chastisements. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. And you shall know that I, Yah, am your God, who freed you from the labors of the Egyptians. I will bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and I will give it to you for a possession. I, Yah. But when Moshe told this to the Israelites, they would not listen to Moshe, their spirit crushed by the cruel bondage. Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, Go and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the Israelites depart from this land. But Moshe appealed to Yah, saying, The Israelites would not listen to me. How then should Pharaoh heed me, a man of impotent speech? 13. So Yah spoke to both Moshe and Aaron in regard to the Israelites and Pharaoh, king of Egypt, instructing them to deliver the Israelites from the land of Egypt. The following are the heads of their respective clans: the son of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, Enoch, and Palu, Shetson, and Carmi. Those are the families of Reuben. The sons of Shimon, Shemuel, Yamin, Ochad, Yachin, Soha, and Shu, the son of a Canaanite woman. These are the families of Shimon. These are the names of Levi's sons by their lineage: Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. And the span of Levi's life was 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni, and Shimei by their families. The sons of Kehat, Amram, Issah, Shephron, and Uziel. And the span of Kehat life was 133 years. 19. The sons of Merari, Mali, and Mushi. These are the families of the Levium by their lineage. Amram took to wife his father's sister, Jochebed, and she bore him Aaron and Moshe, and the span of Amram's life was 137 years. The sons of Issah, Koresh, Nepheg, and Sikri. The sons of Uziel, Mishal, Elzaphan, and Sifri. Aaron took to wife Eliahaba, daughter of Aminadab, and sister of Nashon, and bore him Nadab, and Abihu, and Eleazar, Itamar. The sons of Koresh, Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasav. These are the families of the Kerethites. And Aaron's son, Eleazar, took to wife one of Putiel's daughters, and she bore him Pinas. Those are the heads of the father's house of the Levium by their families. It is the same of Aaron and Moshe, to whom Yah said, Bring forth the children from the land of Egypt, troop by troop. It was they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to free the Israelites from the Egyptians. These are the same Moshe and Aaron. For when Yah spoke to Moshe in the land of Egypt, and Yah said to Moshe, I am Yah. Speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I will tell you. Moshe appeared to Yah, saying, See, I am an impotent speech. How then should Pharaoh heed me? From now on, I will, instead of saying Yah, I will say Elohim. Elohim replied to Moshe in chapter 7, verse 1. See, I place you in the role of Elohim to Pharaoh, with your brother Aaron as your Navi. A Navi is a prophet. And you shall repeat all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall speak to Pharaoh to let the Israelites depart from this land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that I may multiply my signs and marvels in the land of Egypt. Now, this is, here it says in verse 3 in chapter 7, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. Now, I once heard a Hebrew teacher say, when we read the word harden Pharaoh's heart, we think of hardening his heart, making it a heart of stone to where you won't listen. But basically what he said is to harden Pharaoh's heart means to strengthen his mind that he can make a better decision. Only in one time, during that time, where Elohim hardened Pharaoh's heart, and that was just before the 10th plague, he hardened Pharaoh's heart so that God himself could do what needed to be done concerning the newborn. But we will cover that a little later. So, chapter 7, verse 2, read this again. You shall repeat all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall speak to Pharaoh to let Israelites depart from his land. Verse 3, but I will harden or strengthen Pharaoh's mind, or it's just harden Pharaoh's heart, but it's to strengthen his mind, that I may multiply my signs and marvels in the land of Egypt. We still have to make the choice, no matter what. So, God can do different things. I'm sorry about this, but so in Deuteronomy verse 30, chapter 30, it says that we have the choice between life and death. So that's what this verse is referring to. Chapter 7, verse 4. When Pharaoh does not heed you, he will lay my hand upon Egypt. When Pharaoh does not heed you, I, talking about Elohim, will lay my hand upon Egypt and deliver my ranks, my people the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with extraordinary chastisements. So he's letting Moses know beforehand that Pharaoh won't listen, and great things have to happen in order to let the people, the Israelites or the Hebrew children, go from Egypt. Verse 5, and the Egyptians shall know that I am Elohim, the God of Israel, more or less, when I stretch out my hand over Egypt and bring out the Israelites in their midst. Then Moshe and Aaron did as Elohim commanded them, so they did. Moshe was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they made the demand on Pharaoh. So we know how old they were. And it says that Moses was in the wilderness when he ran away from Egypt for 40 years. So God trained him. He taught him for 40 years how to keep sheep, because Israelites are referred to as sheep. Verse 8. Elohim said to Moshe and Aaron, when Pharaoh speaks to you and says, produce your marvel, you shall say to Aaron, take your rod or staff and cast it down before Pharaoh. It shall turn into a serpent. Now, this is something interesting. Serpent in the Hebrew has two different meanings. It could be a snake, but the other thing that the Egyptians feared even more than a serpent was the Nile crocodile. And the Hebrew teacher that I used to listen to said, when Aaron threw his staff down and it turned into a serpent, it says in the Hebrew that it turned into a crocodile. So, very interesting that it turned into a crocodile. Let's read on. So Moshe and Aaron came before Pharaoh and did just as Elohim had commanded. Aaron cast down his rod in the presence of Pharaoh and his courtiers, and it turned into a serpent. It turned into a crocodile. I know the church teaches a snake, but what would a little snake do? Now here's what you. Then Pharaoh, for his part, summoned the wise men and the sorcerers and the Egyptian magicians. In turn, did the same with their spell. Now, here's the difference. Aaron and Moses didn't have to say a word. They just had to throw that staff or the rod onto the ground, and it turned into a serpent or a crocodile. But the Pharaoh's magicians, they had to cast a spell. They had to do an incantation to turn it into a serpent. Whatever it was, we don't know for sure. Then Pharaoh, for his part, summoned the wise men and sorcerers, and the Egyptian magicians in turn did the same with their spells. Remember, they had to cast a spell. Each cast down his rod, and they turned into serpents. Okay, but they had to actually speak it into a serpent, which Moses didn't. He just threw it down. Each cast down his rod, and they turned into a serpent. But Aaron's rod swallowed their rods. Now, a crocodile, I didn't know, will eat other crocodiles if they get hungry. After I read this, and it was made light to me through the Hebrew teacher, it was reported on news within the next couple of days that there's a three-legged alligator. And they showed where it was, and I don't remember, it's been a number of years, and it had leg missing. What people said they saw is a bigger alligator went and attacked that alligator and ripped off its leg and swallowed it. So alligators or crocodiles will eat each other. So it's not uncommon for an alligator to eat another alligator, for a crocodile to eat another crocodile. For that, we got the king snake eating other snakes. We don't know what it was, but it says that the serpent that came out of Aaron's rod ate the magician's serpent, or the rod. Verse 13, yet Pharaoh's heart stiffened. In other words, he rebelled, and he did not heed them, as Elohim had said. And Elohim said to Moshe, Pharaoh is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning, as he is coming to the water, and station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile, taking with you the rod that turned into a snake or a serpent. And say to him, Elohim, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you and say, let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness. But you have paid no heed until now. 17. Thus says Elohim, by this you shall know that I am Elohim. So, see, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the... 17, let's do it again. Thus says Elohim, by this you shall know that I am Elohim, the God of the Hebrews, more than less. See, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the rod that is in my hand, and it will be turning into blood. Now, remember this. It'll turn into blood. It will come up again. So, let's go to 6:18. And the fish of the Nile will die. The Nile will sink, so that the Egyptians will find it impossible to drink the water of the Nile. And Elohim said to Moshe, say to Aaron, take your rod and hold out your arm over the waters of Egypt, its rivers, its channels, its ponds, all its bodies of water, that they may turn to blood. There shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and of stone. 20. Moshe and Aaron did just as Elohim commanded. He lifted up the rod and struck the water in the Nile in the sight of Pharaoh and his courtiers, and all the water in the Nile was turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile died. The Nile stank, so that the Egyptians could not drink the water from the Nile, and there was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But when the Egyptian magicians did the same with their spells, Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them, as Elohim had spoken. Now here's the question I ask you. If the water was red already with blood, how could the magicians cast a spell on the water and make it into blood? Make it red? That's a good question. Apparently they could. I don't know how, since all the water was already blood. Let's go to 23. Pharaoh turned and went into his place, paying no regard even to this. And all the Egyptians had to dig round about the Nile for drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the Nile. When 7 days had passed after Elohim struck the Nile, Elohim said to Moshe, go to Pharaoh and say to him, thus says Elohim, let my people go, that they may worship me. Now, we just went through the first plague. Now we're on the second. If you refuse to let them go, then I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile will swarm with frogs, and they shall come up and enter your place, your bedchambers and your bed, the houses of your courtiers and your people, and your ovens, and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come up on you, and on your people, and on the frogs shall come up to you, and on your people, and on all your courtiers, or servants, I guess. And Elohim, chapter 8, verse 1, and Elohim said to Moshe, say to Aaron, hold out your arm with the rod over the rivers, the channels, and the ponds, and bring up frogs on the land of Egypt. Now here's the thing. Did he do away with the red water? It doesn't say. Verse 2 in chapter 8. Aaron held out his arm over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same with their spells and brought frogs upon the land of Egypt. Question again. If the land was covered with frogs, how could the magicians bring up more? Well, they could bring up more frogs, but they had spells. They have to talk. So they have to cast spells. And Aaron, and Moses just have to do what they have to do. Throw it down, or hold over, or hold up the rod. Verse 4. Then Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, plead with Elohim to remove the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to Elohim. Oh, first promise. 5. And Moshe said to Pharaoh, you may have this triumph over me. For what time shall I plead in behalf of you and your couriers and your people, that the flocks be cut off from you and your houses, to remain only in the Nile? For tomorrow, he replied. And Moshe said, as you say, that you may know that there is none like Elohim our God. If your house and your bed and your ovens are full of frogs, would you want to wait till tomorrow? You would want to get rid of them right then and there. But as we just read, Pharaoh said, how about tomorrow? Interesting. Verse 7. The frogs shall retreat from you and your courtiers and your people. They shall remain in the Nile. 8. Then Moshe and Aaron left Pharaoh's presence, and Moshe cried out to Elohim in the matter of the frogs, which he had inflicted upon Pharaoh. And Elohim did as Moshe asked. The frogs died out in the houses and the courtyards and the fields, and they piled them up in heaps till the land stank. Oh, wow. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he became stubborn. Here we go. Remember Deuteronomy 30, choose life or death. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he became stubborn and would not heed them, as Elohim had spoken. Third plague. Then Elohim said to Moshe, say to Aaron, hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it shall turn to lice throughout the land. And they did so. Aaron held out his arm with the rod and struck the dust of the earth, and vermin came upon man and beast. All the dust of the earth turned to life throughout the land of Egypt. 14. The magicians did not like with their spells to produce lice, but they could not. Oh, let's read 14 again. The magicians did the like with their spells to produce lice, but they could not. The vermin remained upon man and beast. 15. And the magician said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of Elohim." But Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not heed them, as Elohim had spoken. Chapter 8, verse 16, plague number 4. And I have a 1 behind the number 4, and I will explain after we finish the plagues what the numbers stand for. What the numbers after the plagues stand for. And verse 16, and Elohim said to Moshe, "Early in the morning present yourself to Pharaoh as he is coming out to the water, and say to him, Thus says Elohim, let my people go, that they may worship me. For if you don't let my people go, I will let loose swarms of insects against you and your courtiers, and your people, and your houses, the houses of all Egyptians, and the very ground they stand on shall be filled with the swarms of insects. But on that day I will separate the region of Goshen where my people dwell, so that no swarm of insects shall be there, that you may know that I am Elohim, am in the midst of Israel. Let me read this 18 again. But on that day I will set apart the region of Goshen. Now we know the Israelites or the Hebrew children stayed in Goshen in Egypt, where my people dwell, so that no swarm of insects shall be there, that you may know that I am Elohim, am in the midst of the land. Verse 19, and I will make a distinction between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall come to pass. Now, let me explain why I said I have a 1 behind the 4th plague. That is the first plague that Jehovah or God, whatever you want to call him, set the children of Israel apart from the Egyptians. See, the bloody water and the frogs in the land, everybody endured it. The whole land of Egypt. But here, with the insects, it says that he will separate Goshen. That he will set them apart from the land of Egypt. the land that his people, the Israelites, dwell in, will not have any insects. So let's go on. Verse 20. And Elohim did so. Heavy swarms of insects invaded Pharaoh's palace and the houses of the courtiers. Throughout the country of Egypt, the land was ruined because of the swarms of insects. Then when Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and said, "Go and sacrifice to your God within the land." But Moshe replied, "It would not be right to do this, for what we sacrifice to Elohim our God is untouchable to the Egyptians. If we sacrifice that which is untouchable to the Egyptians or unclean," in other words, untouchable means unclean to the Egyptians, "before their very eyes, will they not stone us? So we must go a distance of 3 days into the wilderness and sacrifice to Elohim our God, as he may command us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go to sacrifice to Elohim your God in the wilderness, that you do not go very far. Plead then for me." In other words, beg for mercy. Pharaoh said to Moshe, "Beg for mercy for me. Be kind to him." 25. And Moshe said, When I leave your presence, I will plead with you, Elohim, that the swarm of insects depart tomorrow from Pharaoh and his courtiers and his people, but let not Pharaoh again act difficultly, not letting the people go to sacrifice to Elohim. So Moshe left Pharaoh's presence and pleaded with Elohim. And Elohim did as Moshe asked. He removed the swarm of insects from Pharaoh, from the courtiers, and from the people. Not one remained, but Pharaoh became stubborn this time also, and would not let the people go. Chapter 9, fifth plague. So it's the fifth plague and the second time when God sets Goshen apart from the land. Let me read. So chapter 9, Exodus, starting on verse 1. Elohim said to Moshe, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says Elohim, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go to worship me. For if you refuse to let them go and continue to hold them, then the hand of Elohim will strike your livestock in the fields, the horses, the asses, the camels, the cattle, and the sheep, with a very severe pestilence. But Elohim will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of the Egyptians, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites." Verse 5. Elohim has fixed the time. Tomorrow Elohim will do this thing in the land. 6. And Elohim did so the next day. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but the livestock of the Israelites, not a beast died. When Pharaoh inquired, he found that not a head of the livestock of Israel had died, yet Pharaoh remained stubborn, and he would not let the people go. Plague 6. Then Elohim said to Moshe and Aaron, each of you take handfuls of soot from the kiln, and let Moshe throw it toward the sky in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become a fine dust all over the land of Egypt, and cause an inflammation, breaking out in boils on man and beast throughout the land of Egypt. So they took soot of the kiln and appeared before Pharaoh. Moshe threw it toward the sky, and it caused an inflammation breaking out in boils on man and beast. The magicians were unable to confront Moshe because of the inflammation, for the inflammation afflicted the magicians as well as all the other Egyptians. And Elohim stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, and would not heed them, Yet, just as Elohim had told Moshe. So the boils was upon all the land of Egypt. Now, plate number 7, and I've got a 3 behind the 7. Why? Let's read. Verse 13. Elohim said to Moshe, early in the morning, present yourself to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus says Elohim, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go to worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon your person and your courtiers and your people in order that you may know that there is none like me in all of the world. I could have stretched forth my hand and stricken you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been affected from the earth. Nevertheless, I have spared you for this purpose, in order to show you my power, and in order that my fame may resound throughout the world. Oh, wow. Verse 16. He's talking to Pharaoh directly. Let me read this again. Nevertheless, I have spared you from this purpose in order to show you my power. Whose power? Elohim's power to Pharaoh. And in order that my fame, whose fame? Elohim's fame, may resound throughout the world. Yet you continue to thwart my people and do not let them go. This time tomorrow I will rain down a very heavy hail, such as has not been in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. 19. Therefore, order your livestock and everything you have in the open, brought unto shelter, every man and beast that is found outside, not having been brought indoors, shall perish when the hail comes down upon them. So he warned them and said, hey, look, I'm going to send some hail. Let your people stay home, bring your livestock into the barnyard, because the hail will kill them. So he gave them a fair warning that he's going to send hail and everything that's outside will die. Verse 20. Those among Pharaoh's courtiers who feared Elohim were brought their slaves and livestock indoors for safety. But those who paid no regard to the word of Elohim left their slaves and livestock in the open. 22. Elohim said to Moshe, hold your arm toward the sky, that hail may fall in the land of Egypt upon man and beast and all the grasses of the field in the land of Egypt. So Moshe held out his rod toward the sky, and Elohim sent thunder and hail, and fire streamed down to the ground, as Elohim rained down hail upon the land of Egypt. Oh, very interesting. Let's read 23 again. And so Moshe held out his rod toward the sky, and Elohim sent thunder and hail, and fire streamed down to the ground, as Elohim rained down hail upon the land of Egypt. The hail was very heavy, fire flashing in the midst of the hail, such as had not fallen in the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. Now, this is very interesting, because the fire fell from the sky when he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Hail and brimstone and fire. And up to this day, you can still see the burnt spots in Sodom and Gomorrah and some of the other cities. Verse 25. Throughout the land of Egypt, the hail struck down all that were in the open, both man and beast, and the hail also struck down all the grass of the field, and shattered all the trees of the field. 26. Only the region of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. So he spared the land of Goshen where the Hebrew children or the Israelites lived. 27. Thereupon Pharaoh sent to Moshe and Aaron and said to them, I stand guilty this time. Elohim is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Plead with Elohim that there may be an end of Elohim's thunder and of hail. I will let you go. You need stay no longer. 29. Moshe said to him, as I go out of the city, I shall spread out my hands to Elohim. The thunder will cease and the hail will fall no more, so that you may know that the earth is Elohim's. But I know that you and your courtiers do not yet fear Elohim. 31. Now the flax and barley were ruined, but the barley was in the earth, and the flax was in bud, but the wheat and the emmer were not hurt, for they ripened late. Leaving Pharaoh, Moshe went outside the city and spread out his hands to Elohim. The thunder and the hail ceased, and no rain came down upon the earth. Let me read this again. Leaving Pharaoh, Moshe went out the city and spread out his hand to Elohim. The thunder and hail ceased, and no rain came pouring down upon the earth. 34. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he became stubborn and revered to his guilty ways, as did his courtiers. So Pharaoh's heart stiffened or hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, as Elohim had foretold through Moshe. Thus concludes the reading of the scriptures, in this Torah section. Thank you for reading with me, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. And join me again next week with the Torah reading, and we will read further about Pharaoh, Moses, and Aaron. Let's see what will happen. Okay? We thank you, Father. Thank you for teaching us that you are the one and only God that we can trust and that we can go by. We ask that you help us, guide us, and direct us in Yeshua's way. Amen. I wish you shalom. Till next week. Thank you.